Could I have everyone's attention if you're here for the call-out session? Could I ask you to move in a little bit closer, make this a little more intimate? Thanks, everybody. We have a couple more minutes if you want to refill your waters. I'm taking requests. Be singing. I'm just introducing you. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Nope.
Because I'm.
You can make something up. I gotta go get lights. Sorry.
Oh, they said you were lights.
Well, I was, but then they took it off.
Oh, okay. People are still kind of trickling in anyway.
Stage with the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
All right, we are a little bit after 10:15. Thanks everybody for joining us. I'm Liz Kajacob with ARCOS. We're so excited that you all are here today. I'm just up here to give you all a reminder that you can submit your questions through the app. I'll have the microphone as well, but if you're shy and you just want to, type out what your question is, that's available as well. So today we have Patrick Turner from Alabama Power Co. And everybody knows Danny, right? So she needs no introduction. So I will let you all take it away and enjoy.
All right, thanks, Liz. Yes, Patrick, do you want to introduce yourself again?
Sure, that was a rousing introduction right there.
Right.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Patrick Turner. I'm with Alabama Power Company, part of the Southern Company, along with Georgia and Mississippi Power. We have been at Alabama on ARCOS since 2003. Mm-hmm. And basically, that's still all we have is the Callout application. So at this point in time. So longtime ARCOS user, and glad to be here with Danny this morning.
Yep. And I got to write Patrick's little bio, part of his little bio up there. He is a fabulous person and friend. He's a tremendous asset to Southern Company.
Wow.
And a longtime ARCOS, customer. In fact, I think we decided that we have both been to the same number of conferences, right?
It started in 2007.
Right. Okay, I think so. So I may have 1 year on you, maybe, because I went in 6. But okay, so that's Patrick. I am Danny Hayes. I do have a real job, not just entertainment value. I am what's called these days the lead coordinator for the PMO. I've tried to figure out the best way to explain this, but the real story is when I got hired at ARCOS in 2005, I was handed 2 boxes, 2 copier paper sized boxes of scraps of paper. Because before me, there had been a gentleman that was taking phone calls from customers about things they needed the system to do, customizations, and he would write things on Post-it notes, $5,000, $6,000, making this up, crew in a barrel, whatever, write these little notes, and then he left the company. And so Mitch McLeod said, Danny, if you could please make sense of this, these 2 boxes of papers, figure out, did we do what the customer asked? Did they pay us for it? Did we bill them? You know, just figure it out and make sense. And then once you've got the ground laid there, you go ahead and be that person that when San Diego calls me and says, you know, we need to do something with a duty device. We need to do something so that our people can identify for us a phone number that we will use to call them when they're at work. You call me and we'll talk about it and we'll figure out the best way for me to go to engineering and product and say, this is what San Diego needs. And this is why they need it. Here's the business case. And so that's what I do. I think of it as client liaison or customer liaison. I am here for you. And why are you doing that? Do I need to do something? Okay, never mind. Anyway, so that's my role. Lead coordinator for the PMO doesn't really tell you anything. I am the person that you talk to when you need something done, and I will, run it to ground. So the wonderful thing about this presentation that Patrick and I are doing together for second or third time, maybe, is that you get rolling with Callout, and it works. It's not broken. It's working. And we continue to roll out new functionality, and you may not know that it's out there. So part of today, right, is to introduce you to some things that exist that you may not know are there that might be helpful for you.
Yeah.
Right?
One of the biggest issues of Callout users is features being rolled out for other companies that you missed the email about, because y'all sent the email said this was coming out.
Right.
But would be applicable to your company. And you would find that, hey, I can use that for my company. Now, I don't know how many of your companies are like mine, where we do not have a dedicated ARCOS person. We have a person that does ARCOS and then does a whole lot of other things. So a lot of times when you're doing the other things, you don't miss the good ARCOS stuff. You miss the ARCOS stuff that comes out.
Right.
So having this presentation is a helpful reminder of some features, like you said. And then after we discuss, some of you may have some features that, hey, y'all didn't mention this that we just got, and it's great for us.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Because in the spirit of collaboration, you may not have something turned on. Somebody else may already, and they'll say, hey, Patrick, did you know? And
then we'll call Danny and say, Danny, they got this. And Danny, can I get it for free since they got it?
And I go like that.
Like.
Right? Go like that. Yep.
Like, that's for free?
Yeah. Yeah. For you, Patrick.
Okay.
You know. All right. Okay, so we're going to start off talking about a couple of functions, options in the system that exist that you, again, may not have heard about or may not have thought about. And I'll try to tell you a little bit about what it does, but Patrick's going to be our, here's why it would be helpful.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
Okay, so the first thing that we wanted to touch on is single sign-on.
What is that?
What is that? Single sign-on is, it's an opportunity for you to tie your login to the ARCOS system to maybe your Southern Company internet or intranet login. So when you get into the office and you log in to your system, to the Alabama Power, whatever it's called, right? That validates your credentials with ARCOS. So when you want to get into ARCOS and check the schedule, see who ran call-outs last night, pull a recap report, you don't have to log in there again. One of the things we hear that's helpful for, that helps with having the single sign-on is control. First of all, I think Kyle used an example yesterday in our training. If, for example, somebody leaves the company for whatever reason, IT is in a position to affect his ability to access all the systems because ARCOS is under that umbrella.
So unlike today, that I have to be watchful and I go to look at my employee list and I see a lot of active retirees.
Right.
Nobody
Right.
has that problem, right?
Right. Right.
Okay.
Right. User management is another great thing because when you're onboarding, you get this new employee and you can get him set up with his login to the company system, your intranet or internet, I don't know what the word would be. Yeah, intranet, right? Like your company
Yes.
hub, whatever. And that will take care of everything because his login credentials, once he logs into that system, it's validated with ARCOS. ARCOS says, aha, yes, he is entitled to log in, and you don't have to worry about that password. Oh, I need a new login. I got to go to a, where was it? I was going to say, I got to go to my notebook and write this down again, which I know you're not supposed to do. But the fact of the matter is, too, ARCOS, some of you may know, you can set up the controls over password renewals and password restrictions. How many double letters can you have in a row? Can it be the same as your last 6 passwords? And all these different restrictions on passwords that it's hard for the user to remember too. Wait a minute, is ARCOS the one where I can use a $sign or is it not? So if you introduce your employees to whatever your controls are, that's all they need to remember. And then ARCOS does the validation. They just pop right into the system and don't have to remember a different login and a different password and to reset it every 6 months or 3 months or whatever.
That's correct.
So it's good for your security. So from your perspective, you don't have single sign-on at Alabama Power, right?
No, we don't. Not currently.
Yeah.
We do have a lot of applications that are under single sign-on, and we have not pulled this one in. Our TO is a little bit apprehensive sometimes about that. But it would solve the issue of especially our field employees and ARCOS, and they don't normally get onto our company applications every day. They may go in and read email to log in from time to time. So password simplicity, to lack of a better word, is good for them.
Right.
So this would benefit those employees. And like you said, it's on the same scheduled change because some of them forget when I change my NT password for the company home run, I have to go over, or they'll think about, well, I need to go and do the ARCOS one also. And they'll forget I need to do ARCOS, and we'll get phone calls or whatever that, hey, now I can't log in because it's expired or what have you. They forgot all about it. So, yes.
Yeah, and that is something that I can get enabled for you at no cost. So it is one of those things, you want it, reach out to the support team. They'll put you in touch with me, and we can get it enabled. Yes. Mark, I don't know if we have mic runners. Okay.
She was sitting.
Yep.
Mike Runner was sitting.
Yeah. Yep.
Mark Shiflett, Dominion Energy.
Yeah.
So single sign-on is great, but there's one question we've never been able to answer is because all our field users, they sign into their stuff every day. So if there's a single sign-on and they're at home and they try, because ARCOS is web-based, if they change their password there, how does it affect their company password? Will they still be able to, which password would they use when they signed in the next day on their company equipment?
I don't think that there is any connection between what I would do at home if I go into Google or Edge, open it up, type in the URL, and log into ARCOS and change my password there. So that won't transmit itself back up to the single sign-on, to your network password. However, we have added security so that you can allow some employees, like your SMEs, your ARCOS admins, to have the ability to log in through single sign-on or the web. So in case there's a problem with the network, you can still get logged in, but you can restrict the field so that they can only log in through SSO. So that means that that person at home wouldn't be able to type in the URL and log into ARCOS and change a password. They'd be directed, they'd say, you know, you have to log into your Dominion system first. So that's not really answering exactly the question, but if that's the concern, there is security that would prevent it. And if you want to talk more about this, Mark, let's get with Kyle Rosa, because he is our AP, he's our single sign-on API. He knows all about the IDP and the communication back and forth, so he can help us. Okay? Any other questions? Single sign-on? Has anybody got single sign-on in place already? Snowpud does, right? San Diego, you do? With ARCOS? I feel like I log into your system all the time and I don't have to hit that, so that surprised me. Okay, well anyway. Dana, do you feel like it helps maintain some control? Okay, good. So if anybody wants to talk about that, Dana's your girl. Okay, next thing that you might not be aware of, SMS texting. It was alluded to, it was mentioned this morning, I think Bruce mentioned it. SMS texting, I want to do a little bit of history, and you may remember, Patrick, there was a time when people were saying, we really want the employee to be able to get a message about a call out on his phone or her phone. And what we were able to do at that point in time, many years ago, was allow in ARCOS, support in ARCOS the ability to record an email address for the mobile device. So it might have been your phone number at att.net, or it might have been your phone number at VZV, whatever the Verizon one is. So it wasn't really texting, but it was an ability to send information, and most of the time it was like the call out type and maybe the custom message, very little information to the employee in it was kind of like a text, but not an SMS message. Couldn't reply to it, but it would give you a heads up so that you might expect the phone call to come later. Did you ever set that up? Do you remember?
I did, but there was like a little template you had to use that felt to some like it was a little bit of coding you had to do, which made it very not user-friendly.
It was not user-friendly.
Right.
And we brought this up with our UX guy in my session the other day, that it makes you feel like, I'm not a programmer. It looks like HTML, or I don't even know what it is. You get used to it, but it really wasn't as effective for long-term as putting the mobile app into the employee's hand. And that's helpful to have the mobile app where you can receive notifications about a call out and respond. But I know that a lot of you are still struggling with the question of, can I have the employee put the mobile app on their personal phone if I'm not willing to give them a company phone? Are they going to do it? Are they going to say, well, I don't want to put that on my... Okay, so we got around this. Now we have this SMS texting. So it's a true text message that can be sent as part of your call out. And the field employee can reply to it, accept or decline. Or if you're a customer who has a qualified no option, that's also supported. So some of the benefits are speed.
Absolutely.
And as Darren mentioned earlier, if you're in an area where reception for your phone is not great, but you can get a text message.
Correct.
Right.
So it gives you have three options now with the basic call, the mobile, and SMS texting. So if you're sitting in church, there's no excuse, really, right? For you not to respond to a call.
That's true. That's very true. Well, that's very true.
You have to use every reason you can to sell to the field.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Let me add this.
Yeah, do.
But what I found is that those people who set up new employees for the field, if they're your foreman or the clerk in that particular office and they're not somebody very engaged with ARCOS, they will forget to check that or ask them about it to let them know that that's an availability to them. And I see it all the time. You run through and the guys will call me and we're having a conversation about ARCOS didn't call me. I didn't get notified. And I'll ask them about the mobile app. Yes, I got that. and then they're not set up for texting. So they're not taking advantage of everything that we have to offer to communicate with you. And it's a very simple check.
It is.
That's all you got to do.
Right.
And set 'em up.
And one way that you could get, perhaps we can talk about this too, if you have made this initiative, you've put it in place that you're going to offer SMS texting as an option to your field employees, there is a way.
To default it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, there is a way to default it. And you can define in ARCOS a device and give it a name, like this is your texting device. And if that is part of your onboarding process, and that preferred text device is set up to default to receive a text message, then as you're going through and you're onboarding and you say, okay, what phone number should we use for your preferred text message device? And you get that cell phone number, and obviously it has to be a cell phone. It's not gonna be your landline, that won't work. But that could become part of your process by setting it up that here is a device name that you can default to SMS.
Yes. It's informant are known to go down the checklist for onboarding new employees.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
It's absolutely. They
Well,
cover
there's
it
so
all.
much to forget. You have to. You have to follow a checklist. Another thing is, we talked about this during our presentation yesterday. We were talking about texting. As the administrator for the ARCOS system, as the person who's in there making sure that the employee is set up appropriately, has the right class, that their seniority date is in there correctly. And in this case, if you didn't have the default, if you're going to identify which of their devices they're going to receive a text message on by checking a box, as soon as you do that, as soon as you check that box and save it on their employee profile, it sends a message to the employee on that phone number that says, you have an opportunity, I forget the exact wording, you have an opportunity to participate in ARCOS text messages, reply yes to continue to receive them or stop, you know, it's the typical language. So you can warn the folks, you know, as you're doing the onboarding, you say, okay, I'm gonna check this button, this box, and save it. You're gonna get a text message. Now you reply yes, and now you're subscribed for these text messages.
Right.
So
Great.
that's their speed, that's user interface, especially if you've got a younger crowd coming on board. And I know my 20-year-old, she doesn't even want to talk to me on the phone. She wants to do everything by text. You know, so the younger crowd, you know, younger people, they really appreciate that. I wrote field personnel as one of the reasons why. I'm not sure if this is exactly it, but I know that I am currently talking to a customer about a way to not let the field employee know who else has accepted the call out until they accept, right? And this customer said, you know, we don't want them to see that Patrick's already accepted and, oh man, I don't want to work with him. Nah, decline, because I don't want to work with Patrick, no way. So they just want the employee to, here's a call out, do you want to work or don't you?
Yeah.
And the text message that you get here really just says, there's a call out, do you want to work or don't you?
Yep.
And then after the fact, you've accepted the call out, then you can log into your mobile app and see who else is going to work with you. But that way, that's not part of the initial decision. That's not part of the equation when you first offer that call out work.
Interesting.
Yeah, you didn't know that? Or didn't think of that?
Well, don't necessarily have that issue, but I understand it.
Yeah.
I
Okay, well,
understand.
yeah, all right. Okay, questions about SMS? Yes, Maria.
Hi, Maria from San Diego Gas and Electric. This is going a little bit in the weeds, but under the call out tab, there is a custom message text. And if we've created a custom message in the system, but they want to add a little bit more after the initial wording of the custom message, I tested it out so that the text does go out and it actually includes that extra wording. But what about the app? The app wasn't showing that extra wording. Why is that different from the text?
It just hasn't caught up yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it just hasn't caught up yet. So you all may realize that when you run a call out, you can create a custom message. And originally, the only thing that you did with the custom message, it was all verbal. So it was something, well, way back in the olden days,
Yeah.
you recorded your voice, right? And you said, this is Patrick Turner, get your butt out there, right?
Pre-recorded.
Right. You could record them ahead of time, yeah, but you could also do it on the fly. Then we developed the ability to type in text-to-speech, so you typed in the message, and there was a rendering program that would read what you wrote, convert it to a male or a female voice, and that would be what could be relayed. That gave you some consistency, because you could use a template so that you always included this information in that message. Then when we introduced the call-out emails, like we called them email to text, to that att.net or VZV types of email addresses, we opened up this field for text so that a shorter text message, perhaps shorter than you might record with your voice, could be emailed or emailed to the phone. That text can go into the template for the SMS, you're right. But there's a limitation on size. There's always been a limit on how much a text message can get. I know when I have a sister-in-law who starts typing, and she always sends a book. If you're gonna send me a book in a text message, why don't you just call me? It'd be so much faster. But there's a point at which you know that she hit the limit because now there's another one, right? So there's a limit on that, Maria. But so far, being able to change what is actually conveyed in that press 1 to accept, press 3 to decline or whatever, we're not there yet. So that may be something to put into the idea bank and say, you know, we really need for this text to be able to be transmitted in the text message, and submit that outside, because I don't think you'd be the only one asking for that. We just haven't caught up yet. Long answer. Okay. You want to add anything you want to add? Do you have SMS yet?
Yes.
Okay. I thought so. Okay. I thought so. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one.
So I had a question.
Yes. Where are you?
Sorry.
Amy.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So in our utility, we deal with the union. And so adding SMS texting, it creates like a couple of seconds difference from the actual call to the text. And that's why we haven't been able to add SMS texting to our things that we want to use, because it would create a grievance. Because of those couple of seconds, we wouldn't be able to use it because they would grieve that, you know, it was 10 minutes and 2 seconds.
So explain that to me a little bit more.
So they have 10 minutes to respond if they're on duty.
Okay.
Okay, so if a guy gets 10 minutes and 2 seconds, that violates the contract.
Okay.
So is there any way to make that absolutely 10 minutes?
Absolutely. Simultaneous, so that the text and the phone call are simultaneously. There's nothing that exists now that I know of. The time between, if you look at your call-out detail report, if you look in your call-out results, you'll be able to see exactly when the text went out and exactly when the phone call started. Sometimes they can start within a second of each other, but that doesn't guarantee when they'll be received on the other end either. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you're sending a text message to the person standing next to you to share a picture or whatever it is, and you wait, and I'm like, I'm right here. All it has to do is go from here to there, and it takes. So there's a period of time we don't have control over.
Right, it's just the difference between the phone call versus the text. So if the phone call is the phone call, but they see the difference between the phone call and the text and those two things not being the same, that's the process that they would grieve. They can't control the phone call, you know, if we show the start time of the phone call and the end time of the phone call, but they could grieve the difference between the phone call and the text.
Yeah.
So that's been our only holdup. We would really
Yeah.
like to implement that, but we can't because of that time period.
Does anybody else have that issue? Yeah, 1 second, Matt. Does anybody else have that issue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and one of the things, we have the same thing. We have a 20-minute callback rule for us, and it's based upon the phone dial time, so that's when their clock starts. So we were able to implement SMS texting without affecting that because we got back and read, here is the configuration rules and what we agreed to so many, many years ago. It has nothing to do with the new stuff that's being added. It was all based upon a phone call. So our obligation to you as a company is to give you that phone call. All of this other that we're adding is in addition to. So your time starts with the dial time of that phone call. So a lot of understanding, and I'll talk about it in our session, my next session, is understanding what the actual rules are, because a lot of the field thought, well, that time started at the end of your last contact with me. No, sir, it did not. It started when we first contacted you on the phone call. That's when your clock started. So we had a lot of that to get cleared up with our field employees to tell them exactly what the rules are instead of what they perceived it to be.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you for
Danny,
that.
one
Yeah.
quick
Matt.
addition there. That's a great process way to handle it. But we did also add an option for SMS delay, and I think you can set that at 0, I believe. So we'd have to check that.
All right, I will double
Yeah.
check that.
So we can check that for you here.
Yeah. Who's my note taker in here today?
I am.
Okay. While you're running around, Liz, if you don't mind, just write that down that I can get back to Amy at Centerpoint. Centerpoint, right? Okay, I thought so.
Because we got the delay on ours. The 5-second delay.
It's interesting, Amy, because more people call me and say, we need to put a delay in between the text and the phone call, because the guys are complaining that they're getting a text, they're getting a push notification for the
Right.
mobile app and the phone call at the same time, and they can't answer any one of them because their device is going crazy. So, okay, all right. Okay, all right. What Matt was referring to, there is a setting that we can put in place for a delay. To add a delay, I'll investigate whether making that 0 will eliminate it. But I still think that we're going to have the problem of transmission. I mean, once we send it, we can send them simultaneously, but then we're at the mercy of the airwaves and the cell towers and the traffic. And okay, all right. Good for now on that one? Okay. The next one we wanted to next function we wanted to bring to your attention, if you don't already know about it, is what we call polling call-out logic. And this is polling call-out logic it's a call-out that runs. The idea behind it is, I'll use the use case I understand. You think you might need people to come do some maintenance work on Saturday. Here, it's Monday. I might need you to come in on Saturday to do some work. If I needed you, do you think you'd be available? So you get a kind of a head count up front. You've planted the seed. You've, let them know this might be coming. And so the polling call-out logic is really 2 calls.
So it's
Yeah.
different from the prearranged when I do know.
Correct.
And I am going to ask you to come. Okay.
Right. Because that's going to happen, right? So in this case, the first call that goes out to the people on the list that you pick, just like your call-outs, you pick the list of people you want to call. The first call that goes out, the VRU wording says, we might need you to come work on Saturday at 6 o'clock. If you would be available and willing to take this call out, accept. If you won't be available, decline. You have until Wednesday at 6 p.m. to respond to this call out. So you can go home and check the calendar. You can see, are there baseball games? Are there ballet recitals? What do I need to do? Am I going to be willing to work on Saturday? Talk it over with the other family members, make sure that it'll all work. And you can respond to the call out then by inbound. You can respond by mobile. And at that point, though, you are saying, I would be willing to work if you need me. When all of the people contacted have responded to that call out one way or the other, or we hit Wednesday at 6 o'clock, ARCOS says, okay, window's closed. Now let's look at who said they would be willing, and we'll call them back and say, you've been awarded the work on Saturday, we'll expect you to show up. And if you, Mia, if you said, yeah, I'd be willing, we'd call you back and say, you're not needed. So it gives you that heads up. It gives you time, your field time to check on their availability. It's not a make a decision right this minute.
Question for you.
Yes.
If I have the polling call out running at said time,
Yep.
and it's pending out there, and I run a regular call out, when they call back in, what does ARCOS tell them? Which one are they answering?
Right. Well, if you've had the situation now already, ARCOS would tell you you have pending call-outs and will offer you, I always have to think about this, last in, first out. So whichever call-out ran first,
Okay.
ARCOS would tell you about it. Now, if the last one in, no,
So first one in. is the
first
one.
in,
First one in is the first. When I call in, it's the one that's open to be answered.
no, I got it backwards. I always do that. First in, first out. So the first call out that ran would be the first one. It's the oldest one,
Yes.
right? So that's the one ARCOS would tell you. This, you have a pending call out, and at that point you can respond to it. Now, supposing this happens on Tuesday, you haven't talked to the family yet, you know you have until Wednesday to respond to the polling call out. You can, in order to get to the next call out, you can say, you can decline then, no, I wouldn't be willing, but you can always call back in later up
Long as
until
you do-
Wednesday and change your answer. Say, also the other way, you could say yes and then turn it down.
Yeah.
The other thing is when ARCOS does run that awarding call, we'll check your schedule for Saturday. So you may have appeared to be available when we first ran the call out today, Monday, but something's come up and you've put a sick exception or family medical leave, you're going on vacation, whatever it is on Saturday, you're no longer available, even though you said you thought you would be. ARCOS is smart enough to know that and will call back in roster order. So follow the roster rules to call back and award the work.
Yeah.
Is anybody using it? I can't remember who's got, I know I have a couple customers with the polling call out. I think they mostly use it for filling shifts. Most of them are named polling fill shift. And the idea is, you know, we think we'll have people out. We may need extra people to come in, you know, next Tuesday, next Wednesday.
Yeah. It's
But-
a great tool.
Yeah, I think it's really, really neat. Now, not Pertinalis, it's P&M. Is anybody here from P&M? I don't think so. There are two different ways. You can have ARCOS manage the callbacks and awards automatically. So we look at the roster, we see who accepted, who didn't, and we automatically make the decision and award the work. Or if you are a shop that wants to see, of the 5 people that said, yes, I'd be willing to work, I need some special skill. And so really the third person on the list is the one that I want to work. You can set ARCOS up to stop at that point, show you all the responses, and then you award the work yourself. I think that's really pretty cool. Can anybody see applicability? Does that sound interesting to anybody? Yeah. All right, yes.
Excuse me, question.
Yep.
Thank you. Because of the contractual obligations that we have, it sounds like that would be what we call scheduled overtime, as opposed to call out, which is, you know, you need somebody at that point in time, so you're doing a call out for that point in time.
Sure.
Given those constraints, would we be able to do something off of, it would have to be a separate call out list, and the logic would be a little different. So it wouldn't be a call out, it would be based on total accepted hours. Like there'd be different rules than a call out. Call out is just position on the list strictly. with the pointer, whereas when you start talking scheduled overtime, there's a few more variables involved.
Well, is there some reason why you don't order the list? Oh, have a different list, same people, ordered differently for scheduled overtime?
Yeah, it would be the criteria for scheduled overtime would be accepted hours, whereas
Yeah.
call-outs is not.
Yeah.
It's just continuously
Yeah,
running.
I think if I'm understanding correctly, and we can check with the support team, they could probably run some tests, but I think we would probably suggest that we don't modify the call-out logic itself, but instead use a roster for scheduled overtime that is ordered that way by accepted hours.
Okay.
Same people, different list. So if it's scheduled overtime, call out, this is the list you use. If it's not scheduled overtime, you use this list. Same guys,
Right.
just ordered differently based on the requirements of the work. Does that
Yeah,
sound
that
right?
makes
Okay.
sense, yep.
Yeah. Okay, we can double check with support and make sure that I'm thinking the same thing, or talk later and make sure I understand the question, but I think.
I
Yeah.
think you were there.
Okay, and the call out, like any of your call out types, we could name it anything. It doesn't have to be named polling call out. So if, tell me who you are.
Oh, Bill Pedro from Central
Oh,
Hudson.
Bill, okay, it's nice to meet you kind of in person. I lost my train of thought. If you wanted this to be called, this is your scheduled overtime call out, and it just happens to employ this polling logic, it doesn't have to be named polling. It could be named whatever, which might help those users that are running it to know it's a scheduled overtime. I got to use the scheduled overtime list. You know, does that make sense to you too, Patrick?
It does.
Okay.
It does.
All right.
And while I was thinking of that, I was thinking exactly, we have our call-out list, which is based upon a different earnings type time code than our
Yeah.
prearranged and holdover, which is coming off a different earnings type. And for specifically that reason.
Right.
And they're two
right.
separate lists.
And so how do you communicate that to the people that are running the call-outs? How do they know which list to use? Is it in a naming convention? I'm not looking for rocket science.
Yeah, well, they understand prearranged or scheduled comes off of this list, and call-out is really for real-time emergency right now, need you.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. All right. Helpful? All right. Let's see. How about answering machine intercept?
Yes.
Do you have that?
We do not have answer machine intercept.
This is one, though, I think you called me about this and said, Danny, why have I never heard of this?
Yes.
I think you...
It's very, it's very useful.
Do you want to tell what it does?
Well, the
Want me to
answer
tell?
machine intercept, first when Danny first told me about it, I first thought it was, Danny, why you don't like the kids anymore? Because, you know, my grandkids spend a lot of time on the answer machine,
Yeah.
putting their, you know, their favorite little 2-minute spiel on there.
Yeah.
And now the answer machine intercept is all about speed. So, you know, if you look at your call-out detail reports, and you can see those, when they hit answer machines, and like our guys have 2 numbers. So you've got 2 cuts at it, you'll see the answer machine 2 minutes on the calls, and you see how it just really, you know, makes your call-out time expand.
Right.
So the answer machine intercept is a very good tool to use to cut that time. So I guess the experts say that if someone hasn't answered the phone in, let's say, 45 seconds, they're not going to answer the phone, right? So you can have the answer machine, the call last for 45 seconds and move on, but it's still in the background engaged and finishing that with the employee. So they get the full message in time on the answer machine, but your call out has moved forward.
Right.
So you're gaining your speed there.
Yep.
So that's why I say ARCOS didn't like the kids.
Right.
Because you didn't want to hear the whole message. But I don't want to hear the whole message. I want to get your
Right.
lineman to come on in.
But you're right that we do continue to leave the call-out message. So especially those folks that are really new or early in their implementation, you may remember that when your team talks to you about what is the scripting for your call-outs going to do, most of the time the customer will decide that they want ARCOS to announce the call out. This is the type of call out. Here's the trouble location. If you do that, here's the call out reason. The call out reason is poll down, fill shift, whatever it is, and then ask, are you willing to take this work? Well, ARCOS, once the phone connects, we're waiting for a button to be pushed. We're waiting for the employee to say yes if you've got voice rec. We're waiting for you to push one, yes, this is Maria Morales. Some sort of indication that we have a human being on the end of the phone and have not just rolled over into an answering machine. So because Patrick's kids record these big, long greetings, you know, ARCOS can start playing the call-out information thinking it's being recorded on your answering machine or your voicemail, but your greeting may still be playing. So by the time your greeting says, okay, leave me a message at the beep, ARCOS is saying, thank you, goodbye. You know, so your scripting is almost all set up to run through the messaging twice to make sure that at least once your answering machine or voicemail records the complete call-out message, right? Well, depending on what the message is, how many options you include, if you put a custom message in, Maria, that has all the details about here's where you gotta go and here's who you call when you get there, and a really long, drawn-out message, if ARCOS is leaving this message on your voicemail, your machine, twice, and then calling your second number, which you're also not answering or not responding to, and leaving it, you could be talking 5 minutes, easy, that ARCOS just spent on the first guy on the list. And multiply that by different guys on the list, and all of a sudden your call out is really not much faster because you're waiting for responses that aren't coming. Patrick, you're right about the 45 seconds. Chapman, one of our wizards, was able to look at call out detail, and he said, from what I'm seeing in call outs that have run, most customers at about 45 seconds, we can say, if they didn't press 1 to say this is me, they're not gonna.
Yeah.
You know, so 45 seconds seems to be a sweet spot. But what happens is just what Patrick said. At 45 seconds into that message, ARCOS says, all right, they're not gonna touch a button. We're gonna call the next guy or the next device, depending on how you have your call out set up. But we're gonna call the next person. We'll continue to leave the message. If that person who we just skipped, who wasn't answering, does finally push a button, say, all right, press 1, it's me, to interrupt. They're told ARCOS has already moved on to call the next person. Call inbound or use your mobile app. You can. You're not shut out of the call out, but at least ARCOS now is going on calling the next guy or the next guy.
Right. So obviously there's some union talk that needs to be done there if you implement this.
Right.
About the timing of everything.
Yep.
And how much time that they have
I'm
to
sure.
respond.
I'm sure that, yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's configurable. We set it, and we can set it by call out type. So maybe on a fill shift, you don't mind if the answering machine intercept is set at 1:45 because it's a fill shift for a couple days later. But maybe for something emergent, you know, listen, this is life and limb. You got 30 seconds to answer, you know, to indicate that you're there, and then we're moving on, or 45 seconds.
Danny, is it a system-wide change, or can it be specific with like an attribute?
Call out type.
Call out
by
type.
call out type.
But it's system-wide for that call-out type?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's, yeah, good point. Yeah. Does that answer, Mark? Okay. All right. Okay. What did we say? We said
The time?
where you will see it. Time? Okay, thank you. Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wow, time flies when you're having fun. The answering machine intercept will show up on your call out results. So if somebody says, you know, what happened? I don't understand. You can clearly go to the call out detail and you see answering machine intercept. Well, you know, no digits were pressed for 45 seconds. We moved on. This information shows up in the log trace. Other reports, you can see it. I don't know why I wrote schedule there. I can't remember, but that's okay. That's all right. Sign-on, sign-off rosters might have been the last thing we were going to talk about, but if we're at time.
That one's complicated.
It is complicated, and I tried to demonstrate it yesterday in my advanced training, and I forgot a step, and it didn't look as smooth as it ought to do. But if anybody wants to talk about sign-on, sign-off rosters, catch me later or go to the support staff, and they can set up a demo. It's a way of setting up your roster so that you can have an on-call rotation and an off-call rotation. So if you have mandatory on-call, if you have voluntary on-call, setting up your rosters this way allows you to schedule periods of on-call time to kind of prioritize who gets called first. Do you use those?
We do not, but I was thinking we have the World Games coming up in this summer up in Birmingham.
Oh.
And putting that type of on-call, because we need multiple employees from across different call rosters, and being able to respond to say, yes, I don't need you to decide you're coming. You're coming.
Yeah,
when one of these venues go out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that it's something that allows you to schedule this pretty far out in advance. So if you have on-call scheduling that's a week, that's a week at a time on call, and you know for 52 weeks what the schedule is going to be, you can set it up for that far in advance, and it's really very helpful. Okay, I don't think. Let me just block. Yeah. Oh my goodness, there were so many things.
Any last-minute questions?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Oh
Great
my
group today, you
gosh.
guys. Thank you so much for your participation. It was very
Yes.
engaging.
Send questions to the conference
app as well. Thank
okay?
you for the
And
reminder.
fill out the survey. And I'm sorry we didn't get to everything we wanted to talk to, but if you want to know, come catch us later, and Patrick and I can fill you in on some of the things that we didn't talk about. Oh my goodness.
And we
Patrick,
thought-
thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Enough time,
I
too,
know.
didn't we?
We worried that we wouldn't be able to fill the 45 minutes, right? Silly.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Liz Kajacob. I am with the ARCOS staff. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're really excited that you're here and excited to introduce our next speaker. But before I do that, I wanted to remind everyone that you are able to submit questions through the app, the conference app. If you're shy and you don't want to speak in the microphone, that is an option. Or I will be running around as well. So let me introduce David Lashley. It's his third day. We're not ready? Okay, well, we will just take a quick time out, and then we'll be back. Yeah, if you guys could come up, it's easier for me if there are questions. I'm not running through the whole room then. We could make it a little bit more intimate. We can do the, Christy, we can do the Hang on Sloopy now. I'm happy to dance and sing.
Well, let's go, Liz.
I've got something that we can do in the meantime. Are we ready to go? There's a little activity. I was going to say. Does anybody have anything from their last session that was a good takeaway you want to share? No pressure? Any good takeaways? We had a great session on some additional capabilities with Callout in here. And looking forward to hearing about Mobile Workbench here.
Do you want to stand here or up on the stage?